Hi guys, this is Jennifer. This is take 2. I was doing all 3 jars at once and my video cut off. So I'm going to do 1 jar at a time and then list them. My mom was at Meiningers, which is like an art supply, like a really good quality art supply, getting me some new markers, and I got the Prima markers since I'm not really good at markers, and they were slightly less than Copics. Not by much, but still. So we saw these jars, the pincushion jars, and she lost her mind. She's not a fan of Tim Holtz and stuff because she says that kind of stuff is mass produced. Why is it special? Da 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 da. So she saw one of these jars, and then all the stuff was cheap, and it was 20 bucks, and she couldn't believe it, that it was so crappy. So she went straight home and started making some, and I've had them on my shelf for a few weeks, and she wanted me to try and sell them to see, because she's retired, she's been sick, but stuff like this gives her joy. This button goes in here. I just did the video. These are amazing, amazing. There's 3 styles. There's vintage, and it's authentic vintage, shabby chic, Asian, and Dayglow 60s. So I'm going to start with the vintage one because it is my favorite, and just even doing the video, I was like, I can't believe she put this in here. I can't believe she put... So I'm going to dump everything out and then add it back to the jar, and I have to re-display the jar. She wants it displayed a certain way. And these are just really nice ball jars. Okay. So the jar smells heavenly, like a rose smell. So if you don't like roses, I'm sorry, but she had these little drawer scented things for your drawers from the 50s, and they aren't reproduced, they're real, and they even have like little, I don't know if that's sewn or, but she glued these 2 together because one had a tear in it, but the whole jar has this like lovely smell. I can't believe how much stuff lasts. These are needles. These jars are so fun to go through. They're not the typical ones you see. This is a vintage spool with vintage lace. This is so cool. She had this in her jewelry box, and it's a wishbone she had when she was a kid. She didn't like breaking them. She always saved them. And this is lace. This ribbon here is from like the 80s because I had it on a dress when I was a kid. The lace is really old. This is just some more old lace. This is so cool. This is a real key. This is not one of the mass-produced crappy keys. My grandpa had a whole box of old like skeleton keys and regular keys, and they are actually old. And this is some ribbon on there. This pin is not vintage. It's new. This is some vintage ribbon on a spool. And my mom's house is like going into a museum, and she's a historian buff and an English. It's amazing. I shop at her house when I want stuff. It's amazing. And she's one of those crafters that can do any craft you can think of. If I tell her, I learned this new thing, I've been doing that for years. Why didn't you ask me? These are little hook and eyes, mini ones she put in this itsy bitsy jar. Oops, I want to get those back in right. But yeah, amazing. I loved it when I was a kid because I'd point to a dress in a magazine and she would have it in a week or so. Now she's retired and she's been really ill, so it takes her a while to get stuff done, and you kind of have to remind her. This is a matchbook, not vintage. I think this image might be image. My daughter's over here painting next to me. And then these are regular snaps, and these are vintage mini itty bitty snaps. This is not vintage tape measure, but she wanted a nice pretty blue one since it's shabby chic. The ribbon is. There's all these mother of pearl and shell buttons. She said they were all old. I think she depleted quite a bit of her pearly buttons. I mean, wow, look at that. Old. This one's really hard for me to part with, but I do have a box of little cool junk she gave me that's similar to this because I was pouting. This is just so cool. But, I mean, she's got tons of this stuff. And here's a little feather and more of the buttons. And then just some little cool flowers she had in her stuff. Just for eye. I mean, a lot of this is just eye candy. And it's fun. My kids have dug through these like so many times already. As have I. They're just so fun. You forget what's in there too. A bunch more buttons. And I'm going to list this on Etsy. I promise today. My mom told me I need to have more descriptions and more artistic looking photos. She said my photos are not very good. I'm just not, that's not what I do. I just list stuff because I have extra. So I'm trying. She wants me to do stuff for her. Okay. Oops. Those were all vintage buttons. And that one has, I don't know. And then this is, what is it? Oh, these are the itsy bitsy rhinestones.
Oh, so nice.
Aren't they cool? I know, it's like you can see stuff. This is a needle threader, not vintage. I'm supposed to make sure and say the things that are not vintage. Oh, and here's another rhinestone button. This I love. Bluebird buttons, and these are the 2 original buttons. 2 were used on something. Oh, I just love this. I can't believe she put this in there. So cool. And this lace is old. And this is an old stick. I don't know if this is a sticker or something she cut off of a card. And then I think the paper underneath it is just some labels, not vintage. This is a chalk thing you trace your pattern with. I don't think that's vintage, but I'm not sure about that one. And this is so cool. Oh, this is where the... Is this where the seam or the needle threader goes?
No, I tried, but you can't close it.
I think this was for needles. Oh yeah, large eye sharps. These are. This was just an old needle book, very old.
No, this is a sticker.
Okay. And then these were some vintage rhinestones. I don't know if they were on a dress of my grandma's or earrings. I'm not really sure. But my mom sewed them. This paper is just I don't know, some paper I had. I gave her some paper, so the paper is not vintage, but the rhinestones are. Okay, so that's the first jar. I will do videos of this other 2 jars in just a moment. Bye.